Welcome back to the Nordic Championship. Just saw Singularity secure first place for yet another week, taking a win over Atlando. Atlando, unfortunately, in a rough spot now when it comes to playoffs. But let's breeze past that game because it was moderately one-sided. We're moving on to an important game for the standings. We had another important one earlier on with our first game of the day between Dusty and Hillerod. Now we've got an important one between Nordavind and Hybrid. They are both at 3 and 6 in the table right now. The winner of this would go to 4 and 6, potentially tying with Biofrost at the end of the week, depending on what happens at the final game between Biofrost and Vipers. And then they are just one win away from contesting Hillerod for that 4th playoff spot.
And
it's pretty close.
The critical thing here as well is that either team losing this would kind of stemmy their momentum going towards playoffs.
Agree.
I think critically as well, Hybrid hold the advantage in their matchup. In week 2, Hybrid won this one. So if they win this match too, they have the tiebreak against Nordavind. And it means that even if Nordavind manage to catch up in the scoreline, they still lose that head-to-head. So Nordavind, even more so than Hybrid, need this win here.
Let's cut that head-to-head or previous matchup right off, though, because Nordavind crushed Singularity yesterday. This is a new Nordavind. This is a refreshed and revitalized Nordavind.
True, but there were still issues. We still saw Nita struggling up against Krogson, and yesterday we saw a Hybrid where Sharp was on point.
He was.
Friskanet was looking good as well on the Syndra. I think this may well be the battle of the junglers, because if Nordavind, if Aesthetic doesn't get his feet off the ground, Nita is just, he's inherently been struggling. And if Friskanet is playing as we'd expect him to from yesterday on the Syndra, then I think Nita might end up struggling. So Aesthetic, again, it's on his shoulders. It's on him to make the big play with Advian backing him up. But we have had the bans fly through pretty quickly. Ziggs ban once again. This is more so specifically against Friskanet. Played it quite a bit. We've had that ban for a few weeks, even with his resurgence. And then we have Cassiopeia Syndra, so heavy mage targeting for Hybrid. And then we have the Ornn, the Senna, and the Rumble denied away from Nordavind.
All right, now we're going to see where Nordavind go with their first pick. Plenty of things available. It's going to be the Lucian. Bit of flexibility, but that's something that Chris Berg played yesterday and felt very comfortable with it, so they're going to go for it here. The Aphelios is up if Hybrid wants it. And actually, you raised a really good point that I do want to touch on again. Sharp. I almost kind of completely glossed over this. He's a new addition to the Hybrid roster, and he looked like he completely revitalized the gameplay of this roster by himself. He was a monster yesterday. So Sharp definitely has been a huge upgrade for them in the jungle, has really given them a kick up the backside. So I'm looking forward to seeing this matchup. Aesthetic versus Sharp is going to be very, very big.
Yeah, I don't think Hybrid, they were doing fine with the previous jungler. I think Yike was doing a decent job, but I just don't think it was quite...
I mean, decent, but they were 3 and 6. I don't want to sugarcoat it.
Yeah, but I think Sharp is just, he is a stellar player to be able to have in the roster. I think he is above and beyond what you'd sort of typically expect. So, you know, he will be an upgrade, but I don't think that's too much heavily on his predecessor.
Oh, no. I'm not trying to say that Yike was bad or anything. I'm just saying that Sharp's come in and maybe his playstyle difference or his kind of champion difference or whatever has just been... It just felt like they were really on point yesterday.
Yeah, of course. And I do think Sharp has been a strong addition. We do see the Thresh and the Aphelios picked up, and then the Blitzcrank as an answer for Advian. So you take away Advian's champ, he's going to answer with the Blitzcrank, which it is a counter matchup into the Thresh, because if you land, obviously Thresh is locked into place when he goes for his hooks. If he does miss it, you can easily answer with the Rocket Grab and look to punish. But in a very aggressive bot lane, if it is the Lucian going to Crestbig, already picked up by Nordavind.
Yeah, I mean, Blitzcrank is, I think, probably the first time we've seen Blitzcrank in this, and it's going to be a Zac for Aesthetic. Not much proactivity apart from the ganking potential.
Could be flexed.
Could be flexed, like you said. Could maybe go top to Visor. We saw it previously. Styly played it. It was pretty good. Allowed him to have a pretty solid laning phase. We'll see what Hybrid look to close out this first round of the draft with, though. They've already gone for the Aphelios and the Thresh. They could take their jungler right now to prevent it getting picked. They're actually going to go straight in for the Azir. So Friskanet will take the Azir in the mid lane.
And this is already 2 massive backline carries for Hybrid in the later stages of the game. The Azir functions well into the Zac because you have that Emperor's Divide, which can interrupt his dash quite easily, and it means you can offer more protection to the backline. Thresh is also a great pick into the Zac, which is why I'm a little bit curious about the Zac being picked in this situation. Typically, there are big champs to look out on the enemy team who can mitigate your engage. Gragas is a great one, but obviously he has to do it with his body. Thresh, amazing for it with the Flay. Janna, also really good. I feel like them having taken the Thresh, it kind of makes it interesting to me that they would take the Zac in that situation. But either way, Hybrid so far have got an extremely strong backline for the later stages. Nordavind, they're looking to be more aggressive and challenge that. The rest of the draft, I'd like to see a little bit more scaling for Nordavind to round them out. So it's not just, oh, we go late game, we lose. And for Hybrid, I think a strong jungler to sort of contest that pressure in the earlier stages.
One thing that you did say that you loved from Nordavind yesterday that was a departure from what they usually do was the fact they gave scaling to Nita and to Aesthetic. They gave the ability for them to be more impactful as the game went on, rather than giving them a pantheon in the mid lane, for instance, say you've got to win early or you don't win at all. And that's what seemingly unlocked them a little bit going into the later stages of the game, even though Aesthetic popped off.
Yeah, I think Nita has been a bit hit or miss, so I prefer him on a scaling mage. Aesthetic has been a monster, but I think keeping him relevant late in the game, because we saw his great Elise game against Vipers, but it got to the point where you're playing Elise. So I'd like to see something that carries that momentum as the Kindred did. We'll have to see whether it's going to be the Zac or whether they're going to put that in the top lane. Gragas and Lee Sin both banned away as potential picks for Sharp that could challenge that. A very quick set locking for Kakana. Now, Wazel needs to answer in that regard. And then we have mid lane pick for Nita up against the Azir.
So they've basically shown their solo lanes unless it's set jungle, which I doubt. So they've basically shown
possibility,
possibility,
but not.
I do remember
likely.
my first placement game of this season. My good friend Orcs did play set jungle. It's going to be a Zac top though, it seems like, because that is going to be locked in. Aesthetic playing Kindred, and to quote the tweet that I got yesterday, you may have heard it earlier today. When I play Kindred, I just do not care. So that's going to be his lock in here, and it is going to be a mid laner to round this out. I don't want to say anything until it gets locked in. Hovers are never good to talk about, so we'll see. Into Azir, what do you think would be good though for Nita?
So I mean, things that are ranged can function well in the likes of the Xerath, but here we're seeing the Rise, something that can just sort of match the shove at a point. You do get arranged by the Azir, so Priskanet should have pressure in this matchup, but Nita is going to be relevant later on. He can hold a side lane fine, and ultimately it's an aspect of scaling, so it still functions well.
Zac versus Set. How's that one? I mean, do you just think Zac's going to be able to sustain really easily in this matchup?
Yeah, you can sustain pretty well. I feel like the Zac never should really get hit by the Haymaker, because obviously you can dash around with your blobs, and just avoiding the true damage is pretty critical. You both have a ton of sustain. Neither one should be really too able to put down too much pressure.
I do think Sharp's sending a message here, though, because as much as I know about jungle matchups, I think the Elise Kindred is pretty bad, and you have to dodge the cocoon, obviously. If you get hit by that cocoon, you're just donezo in the early game.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is it's very much sort of skill focused, because Elise has the advantage in the early levels, but if you connect the cocoon, Kindred just dies. But obviously, there are tools for the Kindred to avoid that cocoon, and if he does get to the later stage of the game, Elise becomes even more useless than she normally is, because there is no way you can threaten the backline with the Kindred ult. So this is Sharp saying, my team have the scaling in the bag. They have this huge backline. We have a set to be a driving force in the front line. We just need something to pressure early.
I'm seeing similar tropes from Nordavind, though. Chrisberg and Advian, given the early game pressure, they're the ones that are putting on the foot to the pedal in the first 15-20 minutes. And then you have the scaling from Aesthetic, and then you had the scaling from Nita, and a big beefy boy in the top lane for Vasil for those team fights. That is a similar way they beat Singularity yesterday. That's maybe a style of play that we've seen them come up with. However, I do actually think there's been some good responses from Hybrid.
Yeah, I feel like this is really Nordavind finding their identity, and this was something I felt both teams needed to do. I think Nordavind have adapted. They have put Adaita on scaling champions, so if the laning phase goes rough, he can come back into the game and be relevant. Aesthetic, love him on the Kindred, repeated that is fine, and then he has the bot lane pressure to play around. And on the other side, I feel like Hybrid, they have Sharp to lead them through the early game. They have access to pair up with him on the Thresh, and it's just getting these carries to the point where they take over the game. So I think both teams, coming out of draft, pretty happy with what they got. Ultimately, though, it's whether they can execute.
So which lanes are we looking at here? Hybrid versus Nordavind. Which ones are going to be impacted for both teams early on?
I mean, it's jungle. It's all about the jungle in the early game. Bot lane might be a bit of a volatile one, I will say. If either bot lane can find an advantage there, it could be the tipping point. But I think this is going to be watching Aesthetic and Sharp and seeing what they do and where they're going to go.
Very chilled out early game here, though. Again, no one's going for crazy level 1s in our games. We haven't seen much of that at all. No early invades. You do have, pretty good lockdown with Hybrid, with the Thresh, the Aphelios, and the Elise. But obviously, Elise taking Cocoon level 1 is pretty BM. You don't want to take that. And obviously Blitzcrank is the king of level 1s, but he's not going to take any risks. You don't want to face check anything into Hybrid, who are probably expecting maybe a cheeky little Blitzcrank.
Yeah, the level 1 of Blitzcrank pretty threatening, so got to be cautious around that. We'll see bot side leashes for both junglers, so when they get the momentum going early, obviously having a leash from your bot lane is very desirable because you have 2 people helping instead of 1. I've just been thrown off by that Blitzcrank skin.
Which
I
one
haven't
is it?
seen that one before. I think it's that new Halloween one.
Oh, I've not seen that one before either. It's pretty cool, though.
It is that new Halloween skin. I have a lot of Blitzcrank skins. I don't have that one.
Okay, Aesthetic,
cool one.
Aesthetic is essentially throwing down right now. He's going to run straight at Sharp with the red buff. He's actually going to get the... I think he got the smite on that, or did Sharp get the smite on that?
He got the smite and then an auto. So he smited and then he was an auto to finish. So Aesthetic steals a camp, forces Sharp away. And this is the critical point where Elise is really bad when she's level 2. So honestly, great read from Aesthetic, and he's putting a stamp down. Sharp may be a new addition to Hybrid, but Aesthetic has finally started to find his form, and he's starting off early.
Yeah, I love it. Aesthetic definitely had a great game yesterday, and he's going to continue. They warded up that blue, so he knows that there's no cheeky business going on over there. He's going to go straight to it. Now, Aesthetic was gifted with some very, very good mark placements yesterday, so we'll have to see where they run for Kindred today, whether he'll get away with some really easy marks.
What worked out well for Nordavind yesterday was that the marks were where they had control, which was everywhere. So that went favorably, but ultimately now he's again looking to play aggressively in the jungle of Sharp. We don't typically see this.
He doesn't have the lanes pushed in. He doesn't really have any lanes pushed in, either in mid or in top, so he could be at risk here.
I think he's banking on making a quick play onto Sharp.
Oh, he's still level 2. Sharp is still level 2, and Aesthetic is just continuing to put pressure on. Huge damage.
But the collapse coming in.
The collapse is coming in. That's why I said he didn't really have any pressure in the mid or bot to make this work. Priskanet's going to jump over. Aesthetic may have overstepped the mark, flashes himself, and now Priskanet continues.
Oh, the cocoon!
Great cocoon. Aesthetic going to go down here. First blood goes over to Priskanet. That is... Oh, I just feel like you should have looked at where mid and top were. You had no way of support from Niter or Vazor. Way too over-aggressive. And I think Aesthetic may be just culling his early game a bit here.
Yeah, you just gave double buffs over to Priskanet as well. Up against the Rise matchup, having the extra mana available from the blue buff and the harass power, you can just auto Niter, honestly, and the red buff will do the trading for you. That is not how you want to start the game. This is a big contrast from yesterday, where we saw Aesthetic have a monster start in the early game, and it felt like he just kept playing so well throughout. He makes a misstep, doesn't respect the collapse potential from the enemy team, doesn't have the priority to invade, and ultimately goes down. So
bit of lag for Merbs here on Hybrid. Just waiting to see if that clears up. And yeah, not the best start for Aesthetic. I mean, I loved the volition that he had, just trying to go for it.
First invade, great. Second invade, less great.
I mean, that was risky as well, because he was essentially banking on at least not being level 3.
I think as well that the play that we were talking about in draft, look at the lanes for Nordavind. And we have the Zac and the Rise and top and mid. You can't really play around them. They're not going to have priority too much in the early game. The lane you want to play around is Chrisberg and Advian. They have been shoving in for the entire game so far. They have priority. If a fight starts, they will come over and help you. And I think that is the mistake. You invade bot side, you're fine, you're good to go. You invade top side, you're on your own, and you will go down.
Well, he was on his own. That was the thing. We even called it before he jumped over the wall. We were like, there's no way that Rise and Zac can respond to this if things go wrong. And the immediate collapse, really good response for Kakan and Priskanet to just jump in and say, yeah, we've got your back, mate, we've got your back. And he even went, I think even Aesthetic went a little bit over-aggressive, just pushing him out towards top lane tier 1. Maybe if he'd gone in, forced him off Krugs, taken a couple of Krugs away, he might have gotten out. But he went even more aggressive, maybe more so than he needed to in that situation.
Yeah, and ends up being costly, especially as the kill is given over to Priskanet, one of these big scalers on the side of Hybrid, and the double buffs on top of that. You can see now Priskanet free to just spam soldiers and shove in the lane, have complete control. Niter is holding up fine, and obviously he did pick up some extra CS because Priskanet roamed. But some heavy trading coming in top lane, but Wizor, he's playing Zac, and we'll just heal up. And that's the power of both of these champions. When they get low HP, they heal more, so pretty hard for either of them to go down in this situation unless there's a misplay.
Yeah, and you said the sustain from Zac is just insane in the top lane, and I don't think there's going to be the damage from Kakan to even win, even if it comes to extended fights. Vazor's
he was so low, and he's been look how healthy he is now.
I know, it's just insane. Zac's a broken champion, dude.
Yep, unbalanced. You see, it's like now...
He's going to pick up his first mark of the game. That is on that Rift Scuttler, so he will get a little bit of a bailout here. He will pick up...
And it's playing towards the boss side. This is the critical thing. All game, Chrisbig and Advienne have been shoving in. You can see the CS advantage between Chrisbig and Merbs. This is the lane you want to play around, and this is Aesthetic and Advienne pairing up. Priskanet with no flash. They could look for something here.
Flash pull could be there from Advienne. He's going to have to hit it, of course. Priskanet now level 5. Not yet level 6. Nita goes in, tries to get it, and lovely little jump away. There's the pull. They're going to get a first kill onto Priskanet. It will go to Aesthetic. That is the punish play from that flash earlier on in the invade. That is revenge for Aesthetic, and lovely little roam from Advienne.
And beautiful from Nitra as well. The setup to go for the spell flux and then the root. Obviously, with the changes to Rise after... Not last Worlds, but the Worlds before, they removed that instant root. Makes it harder to set ganks up like that. But he finds it. He gets the spell flux and then the root, and then it means there's a guaranteed hook to come out from Advienne. The rocket grab wasn't going to miss in that situation. Just really great coordination. And the end result is they punish Priskanet in the mid lane. And a kill goes over to Aesthetic, which you will absolutely take.
Yep, he definitely needed those. He does miss out on a mark, by the way. I don't know if we just caught that, but the Raptor camps on the east side of the map was the second mark of the game that very swiftly gets taken away, unfortunately.
Yeah, and unfortunately, he didn't have his target assigned on a Priskanet either, so it doesn't get a mark from
It was assigned to a Sharp. He was looking for a very early aggression onto Sharp in the first portion of this game.
So definitely a different pace from their matchup against Singularity in terms of the Kindred. But Kindred can still scale well, even if you're not getting... I mean, yesterday was obscene. That was like the upper limit of what a Kindred can do. This is more for Tapered one where he's made a mistake, but he will get that Dragon, which is a nice pickup to have. But you see on the opposite side, actually a dive potentially coming out from Hybrid here. They're looking to threaten.
Nita has to be careful. Kakan runs in. Nita does land the Rune Present, and Phase Rush keeps him alive. Fancy pants.
TP coming in.
TP coming in from Wazer. I don't know if they want the fight. He's just maybe looking for it. He actually gets a nice big hit onto Kakan. Kakan takes a lot of turret damage here, forced to flash away. Aesthetic will not be able to do the job, although Priskanet, again, with no flash, has to be careful. Nothing left to chase down. Oh, Realm Warp, actually. I think Priskanet's just dead.
Crispic's looking for it. He does have the flash. Oh, and the rocket grab.
And the rocket grab as well. Sharp didn't have his flash either. Big punish from the early game. Merbs is going to get some solo farm here, but nonetheless, we are looking at a good little advantage picked up for Nordavind at the start of the game.
And Hybrid try and make an aggressive play. Nita's able to react well, and it felt like the whole team responded in that regard. Crispic and Advienne with the priority. The Realm Warp from Nita to set them up. Nordavind, this is not a Aesthetic is going to carry us over the finish line. This is everyone playing pretty well to be a good team.
Ultimate to get away here from Kakan, but the little knock-up from Advienne will get the kill over to Chrisberg. 3-0, by the way. I love giving priority to Chrisberg. He's an AD carry that has always shone in the Nordic scene and continues to do so. And this is the early game pressure from Nordavind, then followed up by the late game from Aesthetic and Nita.
The thing is, he had such a rough start to this split where it felt like every game he was on a mobile AD carry, enemy team just bullied him. But now he's picking this Lucian. He has the mobility. He can go aggressive. He's not threatened as much. And Advienne playing champs with agency, the Thresh, the Blitzcrank, he is looking so good. He is really looking like the best support in the league right now when he is on these champions. His Blitzcrank, so clean.
Yeah, and his Thresh as well. You said that Akis takes it away from him, but...
He's not bothered.
He's not bothered.
You take my Thresh.
I'll take Blitzcrank.
There are more champions with hooks. There's still Nautilus on top of this, so... Yeah. You're going to have to throw some bans in as well if you want to deny Advienne from finding success. But Hybrid down in gold now, 1,500. Definitely on the back foot here, but by no means out. I think with an Azir and an Aphelios, there is never going to be a point in this game where we can rule Hybrid completely out until their Nexus goes down. But Nordavind want to keep applying that pressure. They swap their bot lane up to the top side. They have priority in that lane, and they're looking to start up this Herald. Vision control means the Hybrid are a bit cautious at stepping up, and I think they're just going to give this one. Good
recovery from Aesthetic as well, given that it can be very tilting in the early game when something like that happens. Vasor's just going to try and collect as many blobs as physically possible. Takes a very elongated trade. Nita gets jumped over the wall, immediately cocooned and will go down. That was a beautiful little combo there for Hybrid, but they will lose the Rift Herald for it.
Beautiful play coming out. Just to set up, just to get something in return when you're unable to find the Herald. And this is, again, Nita being punished for that aggressive play on a Priskanet. It goes in circles, and now Hybrid looking to get a couple of plates in the mid lane. They don't have the Herald, but actually CC connects.
He's going to have to use the ultimate immediately. He can't because the CC is there. Teleporter comes in from Naito. I think Axis will pay for this with his life. The box to buy some time. They're actually giving up pressure on this mid lane. Visor tries to get the ult, but he will not be able to. And now Axis may even get away. Phase Rush can only do so much for Naito. Chasing him down right now.
Oh, he's out.
He's out. I can't believe it.
Moby Boots reactivate and he gets away. That's so huge for Hybrid. They make the play. The rest of the team, Priskanet and Sharp, just keep hitting the tower. Actually, this could be Wazo as well.
Vazo does not have his passive available, and Sharp will flash. Maybe didn't need to, but picks up the kill anyway.
Wanted to confirm it, but does get that one in. They get 2 kills there. No one goes down. And they get more plates than Chrisberg is getting in the top lane. So Hybrid just making this game even once again. Just as we started to say Nordavind were pulling ahead.
I don't know, Aesthetic
Hybrid answer.
I think Aesthetic was asking for that, though. He was in hook range. He was basically relying on his ability to dodge it.
Well, it was the Cocoon.
Yeah.
The Cocoon connects.
It's quicker than the hook, and he just wasn't
I think
expecting
it's just, you don't feel like you have to be cautious. If you're playing Kindred, you have the ultimate, you have dashes to avoid.
Yeah, I get it,
It's just a beautiful read from Sharp, in all honesty. And we said this guy has been a big addition to the team. He made that play happen.
That gold lead wiped clean. Hybrid actually with a very minor gold lead themselves as well. So this is kept keeping the game very competitive. Remember, Nordavind need to win this. I mean, both teams need to win this. Hybrid, if they win, good place for playoffs. Nordavind, if they win, good place for playoffs. And if you lose this, you're probably looking down the barrel of being in 5th place if you continue, even if you continue to win for the rest of the weeks.
This match is so impactful because it's with the team you're tied with. Essentially, not only do you lose the game yourself, it's a 2-point difference because you're elevating your direct competition upwards, and it's going to make it extremely difficult to make that top 4. So this is an extremely big match in terms of the playoff potential for both these teams. That's why these clutch plays are so impactful, because of how much it means. And right now, Nordavind going to put even more money onto Chrisberg, who's collecting plates on the top side. He's going to get the full tower here with the first turret. A bit goes over to Aesthetic, but...
They'll lose the mid lane tower for this, but I really don't think there's any way to defend that. Now Visor trying to collect, and he uses his ultimate here. He's going to
healing a lot.
He's healing a lot from his blobs, and he will get a huge amount of sustain back.
Conqueror coming in clutch there in the extended trade for him. Kakan just doesn't have enough, but Chrisberg, he's going to take another tower here. And the answer is in the mid lane, so Hybrid got that tower mid.
Naito will be able to cleanse this one out. Advian does get pulled in, and actually this is a big engage coming through because Advian takes the damage. The silence there, but not enough, and that will be another kill for Hybrid.
And they can't really do much to contest with this tower up. I mean, Wazo could come in and look for a dive, but Azir tower does a lot of damage. It's really dangerous to go for that play. And Bridge Divide still available.
He goes in. Flay is there for Rizal, but the damage coming through. Blobs are out right now. Priskanet being targeted as Aesthetic as they basically zone out with that wall. They'll pick up the kill onto Vazor, and they'll back off under the turret with the teleport. They get... Well, they don't take the second tier turret, but they do get a good team fight out of it there as well.
Ends up being a 1-for-1 in that extended trade, but ultimately it's so back and forth between these two teams. I'd love to have a look at the gold because I think the distribution is the important thing. It's very even, but the 80 carries. Oh,
the 80 carry, 3,000 almost in the lead. Chrisberg needs to be part of these fights sooner rather than later because he has just got such a monumental lead over Merbs right now.
And he's obviously got his own CS lead, and they did great in those roams, but this is him being handed 3 plates top, 2 whole towers bot lane. And if you look at the rest of Hybrid, top lane ahead for Hybrid, jungle, mid ahead for Hybrid, support a little bit behind, but it's 80 carry is essentially giving this lead to Nordavind. It's purely on Chrisberg, and this is a game for him to carry. Lucian isn't going to be as relevant later on. His short range will make things difficult against Priskanet and Merbs, but right now he is really doing a ton of damage, and he has a great opportunity to step up for his team.
I think he's one of the most well-known Nordic region 80 carries outside of the LEC. He's been involved in so many European Masters, so many top teams within the Nordic region. This is a game where he has to prove it and really put on the pedal for Nordavind because they need this win. This is a split-defining win.
This is
for Nordavind.
I'm going to say it, a do-or-die game.
The kings of Nordics. They've got to cement their legacy. But yeah, it's really an important game.
Yeah.
It's a very important game.
You say Aesthetic setting up for his bot lane. They want to apply pressure to this top lane tower. There's a lot of vision in the river already established, so Chrisberg should just be able to push up. Question's going to be, though, what will Hybrid do in response? Merbs will catch the wave. This tower is essentially just going to go down for nothing. Well, Sharp's looking. He wants to try and find a pick here. Hybrid, get that tower.
Vasil gets shoved away. Like you said, there's just very little way that Zach can find engages if Hybrid are playing on point, and so far they have.
It has been a little bit late, though. The flay from Axes in that previous fight, the knock-up damage, the knock-up still connected. And there as well, the Empress Divide didn't stop the Zach.
Damage connected, but it stops the engage overall.
It still functions, but it's definitely, if that happens in a team fight, it's a little bit late. That could be costly. But you can definitely see the mechanic in play. Stopping the Zach from able to dive in on your backline is critical if Hybrid want to keep their Azir and their Aphelios pumping out damage.
Vasil's had a bit of a rough time. He's actually got a 40 CS disadvantage in that top lane. Actually something that has crept up on us. We haven't really been able to keep tabs of it, but he's definitely struggling into this set matchup now, and they've been trying to abuse him as much as possible. He just wants to walk up to this tower. He just wants this to go down. A couple of basic attacks will do it, and he'll dive out here as well. The second Rift Tower is going to get started up by Aesthetic.
And they need this one. They need this one to take mid lane tower. Aesthetic, he's now moved up to 5 stacks. Helps that he got those dragons to pick up some, so he has that range upgrade that's critical. But he needs the Herald so he can break that mid tower. We've talked quite a bit about how the mid outer tower is really good for stalling games out, because it means you can't push the mid wave too deep. It means it's very risky to try and contest the enemy jungle, because they have that area of safety where Priskanet can just damage over the wall and he has towers to retreat to. So it's important they take that one down, and the Herald is the big thing that you can use to allow that, because ultimately against Nazir, it's pretty difficult to take a tower ever against his wave clear.
Just want to point out the item differential between Chrisberg and Merbs right now. Infinity Edge, Berserker's Greed completed, and an Essence Reaver. Merbs is yet to pick up his first item.
That's rough. And it could be worse, because if this was the other way around, then Lucian would just be done, because the Aphelios will scale well, but right now, you're feeling pretty useless. And Hybrid are posturing for this dragon because it would put Nordavind on soul point. They don't want to let that happen. Despite the fact that Chrisberg's super far ahead, the goal's even. So the other members of Hybrid have to pick up the slack, and they really need to target this Lucian if they want to find success. They're cautious of Advian, throws down a ward and they spot them out, but it looks like the fight is going to come out for this one.
Definitely need it to happen right now. They're going to let that turret expire. Don't want to let it do any major damage here. Again, Chrisberg is really the target for Hybrid in these fights. And also Inferno is a really big soul to consider. That is a good control ward area.
Pounds on the flank and everything. If he ults waves onto the team, it'll do a lot of damage.
Huge damage. Kakan, he's actually going to be right there in the face check. Wazor has taken a lot of damage to begin with. That is the big... Oh, it's so much damage! And the shield is there, but they do end up getting the kill. In the meantime, though, he will jump in. Big ultimate disruption coming through. Priskanet on the backline. How he gets pulled in! He's in the invulnerable zone right now, though, with the Zhonya's coming through. Knight doing what he can here. Just needs to land a couple of extra spells. Dodges out the hook. That was so close.
That was such a close fight. Ultimately, numbers are favored towards Hybrid, but the HP bars aren't. So they're a little bit concerned face checking into Naita, who's still so healthy. But Chrisberg went down as a critical aspect.
Teleport here.
This is Priskanet moving over. He didn't even return the base to TPN. That was a massive... That was such a bait. That was such a bait. I think they expected Kakan to be coming in, so they just fled. It was just a, like a 2 HP. Oh, the mind games coming out from Hybrid. Look at Aesthetic's health. He could have just one-hit the Azir at that point. But he was just... He didn't expect it.
They're going to try and go for mid lane turret here.
They should be able to get this one.
They should be able to get it. Although I think Axis is going to walk up and look for the flake. Kakan also
the minions might take it out, though.
Yeah, they're going to get it. It's going to be an engage attempt from Visor here. They're going to try and go onto Kakan. He will get lanterned away, though. And that will keep him safe just for the moment. Still, this is such an even game. Nordavind and Hybrid, we expected it to be a good one. I thought after yesterday's performance it might be Nordavind favored, but with the addition of Sharp, he's really stepped up. 4-1 and 5, 100% kill participation.
And Priskanet on these mages has looked stellar. He had a very rough Lucian game against Singularity, but he had the return to the Syndra. He's now gone on this Azir, which is a staple pick for him, and he looked huge. He did get hooked in the last fight, but he managed to turn it round on the back of his Zhonya's and using the Kindred ult in his benefit. Now, Chrisberg's been handed this red. He is still strong, but since the last fight, he just picked up the crit cloak. We see on the other side, Merbs finish the Essence Reaver, match that crit cloak and a dagger as well. So that gap has been closed. And there is a slight goal lead in favor of Hybrid, but Axes...
That's a whole culling that he just took, and he'll take the hook following as well. Sharp now getting focused down. Visor has to be careful. He's not the tankiest Zac in the world right now. Hasn't yet finished an item at all. Has just got lots of different components locked in. I imagine Sunfire Cape is just on the horizon for him, followed very quickly by a Spirit Visage, but just isn't as tanky as he'd like to be at this stage in the game. Can't really take too much of a beating.
Especially when you factor in he has very little magic resistance up against this Elise with the double pen runic echoes. He only has those Merc Treads going for him, so the Elise can cut through him.
Yeah, and again, you've got the magic damage coming through from a very fed Azir as well. I mean, Prisconnect 3, 2, and 6 has already got the Natchez Tooth and the Zhonya, so is safe as pie, as well as pulling out a huge amount of damage in the meantime. Sharp trying to go for this blue buff. Aesthetic is there waiting for it. The flank is available from Visor if he wants to go for it. Emperor's Divide gets stopped in the dash away, and Prisconnect forced the Zhonya's very early on. Naita with a brilliant flank. He's going to take the kill. That is beautiful, beautiful stuff, and they're going to go straight for Baron.
And they should, because they have the numbers advantage now. I do think the correct play here could be looking to turn, but Aesthetic has the ult. This is a critical thing. If Elise comes over, you can ult the Baron to keep it from smite range and deny it. But they're ultimately looking for the re-engage.
They're looking for the re-engage. Kakan is the target. The shield won't help you for long, my friend. He will use the stopwatch. The ultimate comes through from the Aphelios, but the Baron goes down. Vaser will pull Kakan back into the fight, and they just need to defend those blobs. Sharp doing what he can. I don't think that Spider will do the job, and Vaser will be able to get away very nicely.
And just as we're saying, this game looked so close, so neck and neck. Nordavind just chained some picks. They managed to consistently find members of Hybrid essentially sleeping on the job. They chain those together, they get enough pressure to get this Baron, and now they're firmly in control. But Sharp, he's looking for Aesthetic. And Aesthetic just hops back over. Yeah. I mean, you get the Gromp, but...
He doesn't want any part of that. He's going to back off.
Small consolation prize.
Rapid Fire, by the way, finished for Lucian. I mean, Chrisberg is just light years ahead of Merbs, and his damage output in these fights has been good. Naita, I've got to give credit to Naita, actually, Orcs. 3-1 on 5. He's having a good game on Rise.
This is the best game I think he's had yet. I'll say that, because Naita has been a concern, and coming into the split, a lot of people praised him. There was a lot of hype for this player as potentially one of the best Danish players outside of the LEC or the LCS, and he just didn't deliver at all. He was not performing on stage from what he must have done in scrims and trials, but this game was seeing some of that. He's been a strong performer. The Rise has looked consistent. When anyone's walked up to him, he's just chunked out damage, and he's very little, few opportunities being threatened. He got Shurima shuffled at one time, but other than that, really solid game from him. So a good omen for Nordavind overall, because obviously we had the Aesthetic show yesterday, but here it's everyone stepping up to sort of say we're a team, we're not just a one-man band.
It's definitely the Chrisberg and Naita show, and Aesthetic recovered very early on as well. Chrisberg's been understated, though. I feel like he hasn't made any flashy plays. He's just been solid. Like, he's just been there to do the work where necessary, and that's been a good performance from him. Naita has made those flashy catches. He's made those flashy flanks.
And Advian as well.
Advian has been pretty good, too. Kakan just trying to be aggressive, positioning it away. Nice hook from Axis. I don't think they're going to commit to it, though. Advian takes a bit of damage. But, I mean, Nordavind are just looking for the turret, and they get it.
Yeah, they get the turret. This is like goal. They've taken down all the towers outside the base of Hybrid.
And by Dan's metrics of Barons, that's a successful Baron.
That's the decent expectation. It's not more than you should get, but it's definitely not less. So a good metric for a Baron. They haven't broken the base yet, but it looks like they're trying to make an attempt. If they do, then that's Hybrid sort of losing more than you'd hope to on this first Baron. They're threatening this tower here. Can Hybrid respond?
They're having to get a recall coming in from Prisconnect. They get the engage onto Axis, who just goes down, and Vaser in the front line trying to buy as much time as possible. Not sure that was the ult that you wanted, Kakan, as the inhibitor turret goes down on the bottom side of the map. This is an ultra successful first Baron as they manage to crack the base.
Ultra's a bit far.
Okay.
I'd say it's a
moderately successful first Baron.
More successful first Baron. They break the base, they get that inhibitor tower down. They're now going to back off and pick up their third dragon. But ultimately, Nordavind capitalizing pretty well on this one.
Hey, this all came off one pick, essentially.
It was a couple chains, because they got the couple of the mid lane.
Yeah.
That gave them pressure. Then Sharp tried to overstep on the top side of the map. They chained that together with a couple, and that was enough. Ultimately, just a few mistakes, and Nordavind will run with that. This is the team we expected, and we've said that time and time again. Expectations for Nordavind were huge.
and they're starting to live up to them towards the latter half of the split. It may be late. I mean, I think it really depends on how they perform for the last 2 weeks of the Nordic Championships.
If they play like they have this week for every game for the rest of the split, I think they'll make playoffs.
And then there you go. It's, I think they're looking good. I don't want to say that they've been without issues, because the start of this game was shaky, but they stepped it up in the mid game.
Yeah, and obviously yesterday, Nita's performance was a bit rough. So it's not flawless, and that's where the concern comes in, because a dropped game could mean the difference between you making playoffs or not. But ultimately, this one's looking solid. Now, the question is, can Hybrid find their way back into the game? Because right now, Priskinet's still strong. Merb's working on it. 3 items is a massive spike for the Aphelios. But Baron spawning in a minute 45, and the question is, can they get into a position where they can contest that one? Ultimately, Chrisberg's still ahead in items and in levels, 2 up on Merbs. And that is a pretty big concern right now. And it's also protecting your backline. I think that's a critical thing. We've constantly seen them challenged by Advian, by Wazor. And it's difficult because they want to sit back. You want Priskinet and you want Merbs just pumping out damage as much as possible, but they haven't been given the opportunity to do so. And now we're seeing Nita going to the side lane in this rise.
He's got Banshee's Veil as well.
Very hard to threaten.
Yeah, he's going to be difficult to lock down, especially for Axes and Sharp. He might want to try and land a stray hook or cocoon there. He's got a little bit of an extra layer of protection versus those kind of CC. Now, keeping an eye on Wazor, he's had the rough part of the game here. Obviously, playing that Zac in the top lane, he's way behind on CS, but he has done his job where it counted.
And it doesn't matter. You know, you're playing a tank. He has the passive as well, so that buys him some extra survivability. Your job is engage, survive for as long as you can, let the team do the rest. And yes, he's down in farm, but his items are cheap. You compare that to Kakan, who's had to buy this Triforce. Really big gold investment. So in terms of items, Wazor isn't really behind. You know, he has 3 components compared to the full item of Kakan, but tank items are cheap.
They are indeed, and they're very effective on Zac. He's going for the Spirit Visage, one of the most important items for the elongated sustain. He's able to pick up those blobs and get a bit of extra HP back from them. However, you know, we are just waiting until the Baron spawns right now. This is essentially what Nordavind are looking for. Chrisberg, he's in a pretty good spot. Like we said, he's almost 4 items. He's sitting on 4 and 3.5 right now. He's been really solid all game. Massive CS advantage opened up between him and Merbs as well. It's going to be the push for Baron Vision here as Hybrid now work their way in towards the pit. They have started this Baron that's going down very quickly. Advia misses the first hook. Now Wazor just by the Baron, and Hybrid are really looking. I mean, that's just silly. That is just silly from Sharp. He face check is where he doesn't need to. Kakan now locked in the middle of the fight. He will go down. Priskinet is untouched. He's doing a lot of damage. The Realm Warp will come through, but not much else going to happen here as Chrisberg attempts to chase down. That's a flash, my friend, as they land onto the rise. Wazor now on the front line, but he will have that passive available. They'll keep him alive using the ultimate from Kindred, but in the meantime, it is 1-0, and that might just be the Baron started again by will they be able to do it quick enough, though? Will Nordavind be able to do it quick enough?
Their Baron's extremely fast, but at least it's running over with the boost from the home guard, and also the Lantern from Axis can get you closer. I don't think he's going to reach there for the smite, but they might look for the fight.
Priskinet is going in for it. They'll actually hook into Wazor, who jumps back away. They're going to get the Baron, and huge damage and lockdown coming in from Nita, and that will be the back off now. Good little Baron take by Nordavind. The fight where they only got 1 kill secures them the Baron.
And Hybrid played that fight pretty well. The disengage was good. Priskinet interrupting the Zac jump with his Emperor's Divide. But ultimately, their goal was to disengage, and they did that. But Sharp was too low. He had to go back to base. He didn't have a smite. Niter is just way too strong right now. And the Baron goes down. And now 8,000 gold up. Dragon spawn in a minute, which is that Infernal Soul for even more damage on this Nordavind composition. Things are not looking good for Hybrid.
They're going to shove down towards this middle inhibitor turret, maybe even looking to get a kill. Oh my goodness, Chrisberg just picks up the kill. Out of position for Merbs. This may be devastation for the Hybrid base. They really can't contest very easily right now.
And I think Hybrid said, we don't want them to get the soul. We'll try contest that. Nordavind don't care. They'll just take your base.
They'll just take your base, and they will get at least 2 inhibitors off this push. The top lane is shoving in nicely as well, but like you said, the soul very close to spawning. Surely that will be their focus. They may even just be looking for top laners. Aesthetic
going to
up
keep
there.
applying the pressure. If Aesthetic can move this wave in and they rotate up, it's going to be pretty threatening.
He just backs off.
I think they're sending Niter down just to solo the Dragon.
Yeah.
He has a Realm Warp if he needs to join. Ultimately, they can pick up the Infernal Soul, keep applying the pressure, keep Hybrid locked in the base. Now, Hybrid are trying to push out. They know because of the Shrine that Rise isn't with them. But ultimately, they're not in a position to stop this dragon. Soul comes in, and the Infernal Soul, when they're already finding these opportunities to blow members of Hybrid up, it's going to be even more devastating. That burst damage available to Chrisberg, even more significant.
Yeah, this definitely looks like a rough spot for Hybrid to try and come back from at this point in time. They're going to push in that top lane. It'll be Visor doing the work. He's finished up his Spirit Visage, becomes infinitely more sustain heavy in these fights too. It's looking like a good place, and Nordavind again going 2-0 this week is a big deal for their playoff hopes in the Nordic Championship.
This looks like it's going to be the final push. This is the last chance for Hybrid to try and contest and stop this.
It has to come really from Priskanet as Merbs gets locked up by the Zac. They're going for this inhibitor turret in the top lane. Kakan and Sharp are being boxed in by Chrisberg near the Nexus turrets. Nothing they can do to stop this top lane inhibitor going down as Kakan takes a full culling. He won't go down, but it is damn close. They get the pull, instantly blow up Merbs, I think. And now Axes and Sharp, or rather that was Priskanet, so this is just over as Nordavind push in for the Nexus. They're going to try and take a fight, but it is irrelevant to the outcome of the game. This will be a massive win for Nordavind, keeping their playoff hopes alive.
And it was a solid performance from the entire Nordavind roster. I think the big step-up players were Niter and Chrisberg. And I want to put emphasis on the Niter point because he has been a sore point for this roster. He's been struggling. I think they were putting him on things like the Pantheon. He was struggling to find momentum, and then he would just become useless. The Rise, he was solid in the laner phase. He got caught out once, never again. Constantly a threat, putting out so much damage, and he just looked like the player who was hyped up coming into the split. And I think this Nordavind really can make playoffs, and it was a big win getting this one over Hybrid, who are tied in score. It equalizes a head-to-head. But unfortunately for Hybrid, despite the great addition from Sharp, I think it's going to be rough to make a comeback from this. Still possible, but...
Still possible, but they're definitely in a rough spot because they are now 7th, and there's no way that anyone else is going to join them down there at 3 wins because everyone above them has 4 and above. Now, what I will say, Sharp and Priskin, I think they had a pretty good game, but honestly, this new identity that has been found by Nordavind, you give agency to Advian and Chrisberg in the bot lane, and they just pop off in the early game. Loads of bot lane pressure that allows you to just work with the Dragons. Credit to Aesthetic, that would have tilted the living crap out of me if I had that early game. But he managed to come back. He found his way back in, found those marks. But yeah, this was Priskanet popping off, I think. That was a brilliant... So, no, Niter having a brilliant game on the Rise. The whole unit of Nordavind just seems to have glued together nicely when it mattered. And I'm looking forward to see if they can make that run. If they continue like this, they could put themselves at 8 wins in total. That's probably a pretty solid number to secure yourself a playoff spot.
I mean, if they just continue like this, they should start taking down the teams who they have to match up against. That's the thing, is that working through this second round robin, challenging all these teams, it'll just deny points from them and give them to themselves. I think at 4 wins right now, they can very comfortably, if they continue this play, look to get playoffs, but they have to keep this momentum up. A little bit of faltering, a little bit of overconfidence, and they could miss out on this opportunity. And I think this team, playing as they are now, not only will be a playoffs contender, but they could challenge for the whole thing. But it's about making it their first. Is it too late in the split? Have you got time? They
basically need to win every game from this point in time. And then even then, there's some funky business with other teams win and loss records as well. So I
think if they win every game, they'll definitely get it. I think if they don't win every game, then it's going to come down to sort of how the other teams do.
Yeah, it is definitely going to be up in the air. I'm not going to get into math speculation because there is too much to do. But needless to say, Nordavind are playing incredibly well. They go 2-0 this week, a much-needed 2-0. It's a fantastic win for them. Now, when we come back after the break, we've got Vipers versus Bifrost. Can Vipers join Singularity on the 8-2 win record? We'll have to see.